Hey everyone, welcome back to the realm. It is season 5.
All right.
So we're fitting in 2 seasons a year. We do our springtime season, and we do our fall, which is our Scaretober, which includes our Scaretober, as Brian coined it. So we are with you as season 5 is for our springtime content. We have a lot in store for you guys. Let's go through introductions. I'm Gina.
I'm Rich.
Benny.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Brian.
And that's the team. That's who we have tonight. So we are back. Like I said, season 5. We're changing things up a little bit this season. Not too much. We're still going to bring you your full episodes. We're still going to give you that weird weekly news. But because, as we announced last season, we have now transitioned into also a paranormal investigation team. You can see some of them have their TRPD shirts on, the Realm Paranormal Detectives. They get the gold stars today.
I don't know where I'm at. I got my Realm shirt on.
Yeah. So because of that, and because we've taken on the responsibility of doing investigations, it's a lot to go over the evidence and book these things and go on there, and then also put out the podcasts and all the editing that goes in. So we're going to simplify our life, but still bring you guys great content. So during the season, every other Monday, you will have a full-length episode where we talk about a single topic, and we have one person present and we all chime in. Sometimes we'll have guests on to interview. We actually have several guests slated to be interviewed over the 5th and 6th season. Guests you're going to be really excited about. So I'm not gonna tease now, but one, I will say we are going to have an epidemiologist that's going to come on. We're going to talk about zombies.
I heard Dan Aykroyd's coming on. Is that true?
I wish.
Oh, I thought I heard that.
No, I wish. I mean, so apart from that, we have a scientist coming on.
Crystal Skull vodka.
Maybe I could send him a note. So let's try it.
I heard he does that stuff where he goes on podcasts. I heard that. So that's why I thought maybe we lined him up.
Wouldn't hurt. Let's send him.
He's had a UFO experience.
That's why I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him about that, because we're going to be talking a little bit more about UFOs these next season.
He's deep in all the paranormal shit.
Yeah, I love it.
Quick too. Like, he's not just a passing fancy. Yeah.
No, I love it. He's a very intelligent guy. So I would really.
And a classy show like this, how could he say no?
I know,
That's
right?
Well,
I mean, look,
stardom.
We've had a physicist that works at CERN on here already. We've had somebody that has their master's in artificial intelligence that came on and talked to us about AI. We have an epidemiologist that's going to come in and talk to us about the possibility of zombies, as it were, for them. This is I can't remember what I can't remember the show based off just right this second, but. We're also going to be having some guests come on that are owners of haunted properties and other people that have been on some major TV shows that have served as specialists in their field, being on major paranormal TV shows, and they're going to be on as well.
So we have already had and are going to have more prestigious guests than Dan Aykroyd. So, I mean...
prestigious then.
How could he say no?
Right? So we want him to come on.
He was listening. He just shut it off.
I know who's not going to be on our show.
Sorry.
Stephen King, because we roasted him enough.
Oh, yeah, we did.
I sent him up Shit's Creek.
Yeah,
I'm going to stand by that. I like his books.
Well, we didn't say we didn't like him, but we did roast a couple of his movies pretty good. So,
yes,
they're not really his movies. So
no. But his versions of that. I mean, again, his Shining. He likes it better though. It's a flaming turd, but he likes it better. Yeah.
I like his
Rich,
books.
you still think that there's a shred of hope that Stephen King could have pulled King with everything I say about
it.
No.
We're lucky we have any guests at all. So, I mean, that being said, I mean, let's face it. We're just brutally honest, and we're just going to tell it the way it is. We don't have alliances with anybody. So, I mean,
we're nice people, though.
Yeah, we're just,
nice. We're just armchair quarterbacks in this world.
I'm okay.
So tonight, Rich is gonna lead this episode, and I'm just gonna let him do the introduction for it. We're here to listen and chime in. So let's have it.
All right. Well, today's episode or podcast, we're going to talk about MH370, Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. It went missing pretty much 10 years ago. In 5 days, it'll be 10 years since it went missing. The reason I brought it up is it's always been an interest. Every time I hear MH370, my ears perk up to hear what they're going to say, because it's such a strange case from day one of when the plane went missing. Now we're going to talk a little bit about it. We won't go into too many of the conspiracies, because let's face it, there's a million conspiracies out there, or a million theories that everybody has. The bottom line is, it's all opinion. It's all based on what your thoughts are. Nothing is concrete. Nothing is proven. There's no facts of where the plane is or what happened to the plane. Okay. So everything we're going to say here is basically our opinion and our thoughts on it. And, nobody get mad what we say. We're not going to be talking about things that haven't been talked about already. We're not going to be all of a sudden come up with the smoking gun of, oh my God, we know exactly what happened. That's not what this is going to be. I don't think. I mean, I think we all have our own theories
See you guys.
I got the smoking gun.
our ideas. So, I mean, we're going to base this conversation on the Netflix docuseries, MH370, the plane that disappeared, is what we're going to base it on. And then we'll kind of veer left and right a little bit on our thoughts and our ideas and things like that. But I think that's a good place to start, because, I mean, let's face it, it's 10 years and there's no plane. Brief summary for if you've been living under a rock and have no idea what I'm talking about. This plane went missing on March 8th, 2014. 9 years, 11 months. Like I said, in 5 days, it's going to be 12. It's going to be 10 years. So think about that. How does an aircraft that is a tangible thing,
A
just
Boeing
vanish?
777. It's not.
Yeah, we're not talking a Piper Cub. This is a Boeing 777, state of the art airplane that is flying today, that people fly on daily. This plane is gone. Okay. And as I said before, there's a million theories. And I'm going to be honest, I could probably go with 10 of them, and I could listen to them through and go, that's a good point. A lot of them have a lot of good points. A lot of them are good theories. The bottom line is none of them have produced anything. If you go on Wikipedia and you just look at the thing here, and it tells you the summary of what happened in the flight. Inconclusive. Some debris was found. We're going to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, the official report
They didn't
that
find
the
any debris.
actual Malaysian government presented, like their 9/11 report, their version of this incident ended at the end of that whole report with it's inconclusive.
No idea.
They don't know what happened.
Right. Site of the plane, Indian Ocean, probably southern. They don't know.
Right.
239 people on board, 227 passengers, 12 crew. Fatalities, 239 presumed. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what happened. I've heard theories of they were sucked into a black hole.
Easy
Plane
done.
just disappeared. Or hit by a meteorite.
Yeah, I was shocked at that. I mean, there were some of the conspiracy theories where they were saying like a meteorite had, come down from the sky, but there was like nothing on the radar, and there was no like explosion noted.
Dude,
and
would you all not agree that that there are no survivors? Whatever happened, do you really think 239 people are like living like Gilligan or prisoners in a camp?
No, and I think we're each going to take a turn here and give our thoughts on what on this docuseries and those the three theories. And we, like I said, I think we can elaborate a little bit on all three of those theories, because I think all three of the theories that they had one was the pilot did it.
Yeah.
One was it was hijacked, or one was it was intercepted. Okay, I think all three of the theories have good points to them. They also have a lot of open-ended things that that don't make sense. They're basing the whole location of this plane on pings from a satellite that they admit they can't tell them how fast it's going. They can't tell them the altitude. They can't tell them anything. They can just tell them that the plane said, "Yep, we're still here." That's all they
It's
can
like
say.
a cell tower ping
Yeah.
where it's only reliable to a certain amount of, meters or whatever.
Let's go back even a little bit further. When this
It was
first
also
started
a
out,
piece of equipment too that they said they don't normally use it
right?
to
Right.
find an airplane that
It's
way.
not its purpose. Yeah.
But mysteriously, we needed it here. We'll get into that too.
But Rob, I do want to comment on your thought around they can't possibly be alive. I know that in reading some of the other articles that I was researching, that some of the family members still believe that because they lost their family member and they don't have the evidence that that person is dead. And so I think there are people that hold on to that hope of maybe their family member is still alive, but it seems so unrealistic to me.
But do we believe that? I don't believe that.
But then there's TV shows that I don't know if you guys have seen Manifest.
Yeah.
And it's based around an airplane that disappeared and then came back like what was minutes later for them, but I think like 5 years had passed or something when it landed back at the airport.
Right.
So I'm not saying something like that could happen, but you have TV shows that talk about that.
An interesting thing in that show also was that when the relatives started to call, they were calling the cell phones after the plane was missing, and it rang for a little bit. My understanding is if that phone was destroyed, it wouldn't ring and go to a voicemail. So I thought that was a weird thing, but I mean, I'm not 100% sure that that's how it would act.
Right.
But then when we get to my theory, I'll tell you why it could be plausible.
Let's start at the beginning a little bit. We'll just, like I said, how this all started, what the flight was. It was heading from Malaysia to Beijing. It flies out over the South China Sea, disappears. Somehow, it's 6 hours later after it goes missing that it gets finally it's hit the news outlet 6 hours later the next day. The next day, the Malaysian military says, "We saw a plane. Our radar caught a plane." The important part, it flew back over Malaysia. The important part to remember about this is, as you watch the documentary, the guy's even saying, "We don't know that it's the plane." He says it straight out. The military guy says, "We don't know that it's the plane.
Yep.
We just know a plane went over." And when you break that down even more, they can't tell you if it was a helicopter, if it was a plane. They can't tell you anything. So they don't. It could have never been MH370. They're guessing it's MH370 because it was a plane that went back over there. Oh, we caught something on our radar. Well, you're military. Why didn't they send up somebody to check it out?
That's
it's a military base. Why don't you check it out?
It's a cover up.
Rob, you're jumping to the end.
I know I am. That's hard. It's really hard for me to not, but yeah, go ahead.
From the very beginning, this is a messed up situation because it seems like every day that went by, the story changed. Every week that went by, it was something new. Why did it have to change? I mean, you're talking like all the way up until what I got here, June of 2015. The theories were still changing. The thing was still changing when they found the piece of aircraft. Then other stuff starts to come out. Oh, because right after this happened, they went. The first thing is everybody starts pointing fingers at the pilots. So we're going to go to his house. We're going to take his computer. They take his computer right after this happens because he has a flight simulator on there, and they know that he does like YouTube videos and shows everybody different flight paths. Oh, I'm going to teach you how to do this. Right after it happened, okay. Well, you know what? Years after that, what date was it? I put it down here. 2 years later. 2 years later,
Yeah.
the FBI. Oh yeah, we knew about that. We knew that he flew this route. He had it programmed in his flight simulator, and he flew a test just like this. Why are you telling people 2 years later?
Okay, but also the aviation reporter mentioned that those are just click points.
Correct.
And that the one was just an end point. It doesn't even mean he flew that route.
Exactly.
Right.
But if here's
and anybody could have did that.
It could have been after the fact, right, Rob?
Right.
The FBI, which I love the FBI. You guys are great. Don't come after me. But I mean, come on now. History tells us that don't trust some things that you should trust. Okay, without going into too many details, we've seen it.
Where's my tinfoil?
Should we say JFK? Other things, maybe there's different conspiracies abound.
Landing.
There's different things that we're going to talk about eventually down the road in our seasons here. Trust me, guys. So bear with us. But now, how come when I'm watching this docuseries, and I guess I never thought about it, but it seemed like every time somebody had an idea of something popped up all of a sudden mysteriously. Oh, I think the one guy, Jeff, the aviation, I forget what it is, Jeff Wise.
He's an idiot. I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him because he was just trying to help.
But at the same time, he's his own worst enemy. He has a very active imagination.
Right.
He's better than Stephen King, though.
But when he goes into the theory about the pilot having the ability to do it, a lot of it makes sense. I could picture all of those steps happening. Okay.
But it's most importantly, what he brings up is the pilot could not shut off the navigation and communication.
He could shut off
not do that. So that kind of kiboshes that whole
right. Yeah, because what is it?
And also with the pilot, not like they said they did some research. They talked to relatives. He seems like a stand-up guy. Co-workers, everybody loved him. People just have those days, right? They lose their mind, they lose their shit, and they do horrible things. But I don't know.
And you guys and so just for everybody out there, we're referring to the pilot in this instance because the Jeff Wise that they're talking about is an aviation journalist. Mm-hmm. And he kind of jumped on this in the beginning because he wanted to try to help. Right. And so he was talking about some theories, and one of the very first early theories that he had said was, okay, look, when this communication ceased to exist. Were you going to talk about this already?
Well, no, but I was just going to before he said that, he said there's only two things that could have happened.
Right. Two things that could have happened. One, so for all, what happened is they're flying over airspace. Malaysia says goodnight to them and switch over to the Vietnam airspace. Mm-hmm. Switch over to their channel. They're going to take it from here. And so when the flight does that, they say goodnight to each other, and they're in this in-between gray period before they get hooked up to the next flight tower. Now, at some point, it just disappears from radar during this time, and they don't know what happened. All communication, anything that could be pinged or to find a location for this plane, just disappeared at that point. And Jeff Wise, the journalist, the aviation journalist, said only two things could have happened. Number one, for every single piece. So first of all, an airplane communicates through multiple different things that are attached to the airplane to let people know where it's at, what it's doing, and to communicate with towers and people. And so for every single piece of these things to just cease and stop, and at the same exact moment, two things happen. One, there was an explosion that caused it to stop all at the same time, or somebody turned it off. And so then that segues into what you guys were talking about, that the pilots weren't even trained how to turn those off.
But they accepted that theory for a long
In the
time
beginning,
before somebody came up and said,
Yes.
well, you can't even shut it off anyways.
Mhm.
That was an accepted theory, knowing that they couldn't shut it off.
The Inmarsat data that we're talking about, the ping thing, that is down inside the electronics bay. The pilot can't turn that off. They have they're not even trained how to touch that. It's not in the cockpit. They could turn off the tracking and all that stuff for their call sign, but they wouldn't be able to turn off the Inmarsat data connection, which is what tracked it supposedly.
Yeah, isn't Inmarsat just a whole other company with a satellite?
And that's the satellite that picked it up in the Southern Indian Ocean,
supposedly,
which is way far away from the original direction that it was heading in. So what had to have happened is everything's turned off, including this Inmarsat, and then magically it gets turned back on at that point in the Indian Ocean, and they're not tracked.
Am I confused? I thought Inmarsat was a company with the satellites separate from any communication device.
Correct. It's a separate satellite where they can pick up pings.
But that's not what it's designed for.
Right.
They
correct.
just happen to pick it up.
Right. But the what communicates with that satellite is found in the engineering room underneath the cockpit floor. It's not in the cockpit. It's between first class and the cockpit. Yeah, it's in the galley, and it's underneath inside that there. And the only way to turn that particular communication device off is in that area. And so it went off because they couldn't find any Inmarsat pings after that point that it was headed into Vietnam airspace. So then the last place they pick it up is in Southern Indian Ocean. So it had to be turned back on is basically what they're saying. But we'll talk, because then there's a conspiracy about the data, which maybe one of us will be bringing.
Yeah, I think you go back to that and you say, well, how did it supposedly get turned back on after it flew back over Malaysia? Then they know that it took an arc, north or south. Now, I'm going to get back to this will come into effect when I give my ideas of what happened. Okay. There's the hijack theory, which they talk about, but I think for it to be hijacked, that's where Jeff Weiss was saying it would have had to have gone north. And I think that theory would have been maybe the only theory that we could possibly say that there are survivors somewhere. Maybe that it was landed someplace. And I mean, to hold people captive for 10 years wouldn't be unprecedented. To keep people off the grid someplace for 10 years wouldn't be.
Right.
That was the part of that theory, though, that he had that kind of pissed me off, is that he has that whole theory, and then he gets to the end of it, and he just runs out of steam. He's got nothing for an ending.
I know, but right after he did that,
the guy was controlling it with his computer, which you can't do, but he never tells you, did they land?
Did you catch on? Here's what I was saying before. Did you catch on once he started running that theory? Oh shit, we found a piece of plane all of a sudden, way down here. Mm-hmm. Well, shit, that theory can't work because
during that time when he's talking about that theory, regardless of whether or not, because what they're saying is that somebody got down into that area below the galley, started controlling the plane from there, and that it was that they were Russia. They thought they were Russian people because apparently
he fails to mention any real connection as to why those Russians would have anything to do with that, or even why Russia as a whole would want to hijack that plane without any negotiation or
They talked a little bit about that.
But
they talked a little bit about that. Yeah, they talked about.
They said it was being used as a diversion.
The current state of what Russia was up against.
But they wouldn't need to hijack it to create the diversion if they were going to sink it. All they would need is a missile. They don't need a hijacker to do that.
But in that recent past, when they were talking about it, hadn't an airline been shot down, or was that after there was another?
That was 6 months later.
6 months later, another one, and which is why they were talking about how that could, because they said that with the amount of fuel that was left in the jet, that it could get to Kazakhstan. Yeah, sorry, Kazakhstan. And
They'll be
that's
chasing
how
Dan
far.
Aykroyd, or they're waiting for him. So
Yes,
Right.
they are.
Jenny, I'm sorry. I think I talked over you. Did you have more to say about that? Because you were talking about how they
No,
brought that
I
up.
was just
Okay.
really interested when his theory was talking about the Russians and intent. They were talking about how convenient it was that this happened right at the same time that Russia was under scrutiny by the rest of the world, and the rest of the world is looking at Russia and they're under all this pressure. And then all of a sudden this other big headline hits the news, and it was a big distraction and kind of gave them relief
well,
from what they were up against. And so I
That
think
was just
that
Jeff's
tied
theory.
into the Russian
Yeah.
conspiracy theory.
yeah, that was just that theory that Jeff ran with. I think after that MH17 thing, and you know what? You can say what you want about Jeff Weiss, but he's doing whatever we would have done. All of a sudden, the light bulb goes off, and you go, "Oh shit, maybe this is a different theory." You know, it's no different what we do when we investigate, paranormal stuff. You got to have a theory. You got to investigate it. You got to go down the wrong path sometimes to figure out that you're nuts. Wow, fuck, what am I thinking? That ain't right. So, I mean, I give him credit for thinking outside the box.
Right.
In going that way, but I found it strange that as soon as he did that, they mysteriously find a piece of airplane off of an island someplace that's a flapper arm, and then everybody goes, "Well, that theory's gone. Let's not talk about it anymore."
Well,
regardless if it's right or not, regardless if he's right or not, it was another thing that happened that made people go, "Well, shit, stop thinking about that. It's got to be over here." Yet we're finding a bunch of little fragments. And the same guy finds everything.
Blaine.
How can the same guy? You got 14 countries. 14 countries
What a lucky guy.
for everything for 5 years. Nobody finds a goddamn thing. This guy goes out one day
on a beach after he spoke with some professionals as to where
oceanologist or
and he has more connections with Russia than the Russians that were on the plane.
I just,
listen. Maybe you guys missed what his title was.
Indiana Jones
very clearly said Blaine Gibson, adventurer, and I was like, "Holy shit! I want to have my title simply be adventurer."
Well, change it. It says Brian Classic,
but he was a business owner.
Oh shit, you're right. I can't.
He had business goings on with Russians.
He did.
He had been a big part of the whole Russia since the fall of communism.
So
he's been accused of being a spy.
So it gives a little bit more credence to Jeff Weiss's theory, a little bit that the Russians are involved. I don't think that's my opinion at the end here is not going that direction. So don't take me like I'm backing this guy up. But it's just really weird how everything is happening.
But it's also important. It's really important that there was no tag on that piece of plane.
Exactly.
Right.
And why is that, Rob? Tell us why.
Because, if they only take it off when they're dismantling planes, let's shut everybody up. Let's go to a graveyard. This piece is easy to carry. Let's throw it in the water.
Yeah.
And
let's face it, they didn't find no big pieces of anything.
Right.
And that was all something you could pick up.
And that piece of that what is it called? Flaperon?
Flaperon.
It's big, you carry it, but it's definitely part of a 777, but it doesn't have the nameplate.
Right.
Well, that's the thing.
There's like serial numbers on there, and out of 12 of them,
only one matched. So,
and that's what they were talking about. Because just to clarify, just so everybody follows along out there in listening land, what we're talking about is airplanes are always numbered, right? They have their call sign, their number. That's what they're just always known as, the physical plane. And those numbers, those identifications are only ever removed when the airplane is dismantled and goes to its forever resting place.
It's forever home.
All the nameplates are the same, so we know parts came from what plane.
Yes. And so what happened was, we're talking about this guy who, modern day adventurer Indiana Jones, I guess, wanted to help and go, and he went out and he asked an oceanographer where the best place would be to go, and they said, hey, go off this island. It's a French a territory island off the coast, and you'll probably find stuff there. No, nobody had ever reported ever finding anything on that beach ever. I mean, the beach was littered. I mean, it has to be people use the beach, and miraculously nobody else finds it. So then they have this piece, and they find all these multiple little pieces. So they find serial numbers for those parts. And that's what they were talking about, that they send in these serial numbers. And in the beginning, because there's a French reporter that said she didn't find out till years after that it was actually 12 or 13 numbers that got sent, not just one. Yeah. And out of all those pieces, like you said, only one matched MH370, but they have everybody hooked on the fact that this was the wreckage. This is where it happened.
And then the Malaysian officials, unequivocally, everybody is positively identifying these parts from the plane. How are you positively identifying something that, I mean, there's hundreds of 777s. I'm sure there's some in boneyards. But when you say, well, how can you? Well, there's no other planes missing. That's your reason why you think that.
They did say that, didn't they?
That's it. I mean,
you're a fast cook. That's it.
That's it. They kept saying that. Well, there's no other 777s missing, and this is in the Indian Ocean. That's got to be from that plane. You know, this thing stinks from the beginning. If normal people can sit back and watch this and decipher everything that's going on, and we have questions, how can the people in charge not have the same questions and just go, nope, it's definitely from that plane? I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. So the last theory that they go over is the intercept.
Oh, that's so dumb.
That's more the French. What's that?
It's so dumb. It is, man. Again, it's still better than Stephen King storytelling, but it's dumb.
I think that one there.
Leave Stephen King alone.
The Tommy knockers.
They say that there was military exercises going on in the southern China Sea at the time, and there was, supposedly right before the plane took off, there was some mysterious cargo that got put on board that didn't get X-ray and no manifest on it, or the manifest said it was like walkie-talkies and radios, but it was like 2.5 tons. And it was delivered with an escort. So there was like some curiosity as what was that on the plane. Maybe it was
like you said, conveniently no X-ray. So
conveniently it didn't get X-rayed. And there's the working theory on that is that it could have been military, either spy equipment or whatever, intelligence stuff, whatever, going to China to help China. And the U.S. was involved with their AWAC planes jamming the signals and causing the issue of how the plane disappeared and then was either shot down or she says something like a mid-air collision. I'm not sure where she came up with that because there was no other planes missing. I'm not sure if she thinks an AWAC ran into it and crashed it, but then we'd have a missing AWAC. So I'm not sure where she came up with that theory, but
she pulled it out of her ass just like the rest of that crap. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. That one is the one where I go, okay, it's dumb. It's just dumb.
I think my thoughts on this go back to the beginning. What are you always taught? Whatever whatever the first thing is, or the first theory you had, or whatever your first thing is, like taking a test, always go with your first guess. Always go with your gut. Don't go off on the fact. Okay. The fact is the plane disappeared over the South China Sea.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I think the plane ended up in the South China Sea.
So I'm one of the stupid people because I go with that last theory, and some variants on it is, to me, the one that makes the most sense.
I agree as well. I don't know that it's as I don't know that it goes as deep or as dark as they made it sound, but I mean, for a couple different things that they had in that, intelligence saying Americans are involved, or all these AWAC planes are here.
So
however it happened, I think now I guess let's not forget about the woman in Florida and the
Mhm.
Right. See, there's more like evidence or tangible and facts. The only thing we have over the Indian Ocean is the pings.
correct.
That's it.
That's
Yep.
it.
We don't. It went through 3 different airspaces.
Yep.
Nobody caught it.
Yep.
We
Like
don't
7
know which
different,
way the ping went.
yeah.
It flew over a military base. Nobody's seen it.
Right.
That's all we have for that side.
Right.
The other side. Sorry about that. My window's open. I don't know if you could hear that, but anyways, so right, we know where the plane stopped communication. We got those pictures that lady was sent to, and nobody recognized it.
Yeah.
Talk about that too.
Yep.
But
So they just ignored her.
They just ignored her.
Which
And we know that for a fact those planes were there, and we know on the manifest that luggage, whatever it was there. So
we don't know for a fact that the AWACS were there. That we don't know.
we don't know that. I thought
No,
they knew that for a
because the way that information was procured was for the French husband who lost his wife and kids on the flight, who had very much a Liam Neeson-esque turn that he was going to uncover everything that happened. He says one night he's leaving a building and a car pulls up in an alley and they tell him to get in, and they say that they're from like some sort of secret service or something, he said. And they're the ones who tell him the Americans know what happened. That's where all that information comes from. And then he says
that just said the Americans know what happened. They had the plane information for somewhere else.
I think the French reporter, I think she's the one that
she had the
came up with the
information.
AWACS were there, and that.
But she just did that because she said that because he had said that the Americans knew. I don't think she had any type of manifest to say that those planes were there. It was all.
And
why was the FBI involved in the first place? The FBI is American.
Yeah,
Well,
and there was only one U.S. citizen, I think, on the manifest.
Well, so a lot of this information ended up getting sent over to the FBI for them to take a look at the information, and they're the ones that came back all those years later saying, "Oh yeah, it was the stuff that was taken from his house, the flight simulator stuff, and that they had went through it, and then that's when they released the statement to make it seem as if he flew that path on his flight simulator, but then admitted like it was actually click points, which could have happened even with them going through it and clicking it, and it could have shown up as a path."
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So my theory, my thought is it ended in the Indian Ocean, in the South China Sea. I think there's enough evidence that we were shown. Clearly, like I said, nobody knows what happened, and without a plane or any conclusive evidence, all this is all opinion, all guesses, and whatever. So nobody's wrong, but nobody's right either, because nobody knows.
So the woman in Florida who was sent those pictures to go through, what was the name of that site that was sending out those satellite images?
It was called Tom Nod because they called them Tom Nodders.
They didn't talk about that company or whatever very much, but who ran that?
So what happened was
where did they get their funding from?
Right. Well, when all this happened, a bunch of these airline, like people that are in the airline industry, people who were pilots, who were instructors, they had scientists, they had engineers.
That was the other one.
That was the Independence.
Yeah, that was the Independence.
Yeah.
So but I thought they were the ones. Oh wait, okay,
right.
No.
So where were they getting the satellite pictures from and sending it out?
Yeah,
somebody was that company and who was running it?
Yeah, because what it allowed you to do is it allowed you to be part of this collective effort.
Right.
If you had a computer
but who was running it? That if she found some stuff and they ignored it, who was running it that just ignored it?
I can't remember.
The only one that really found anything.
Because I remember that it was like you could log in.
It was the funding.
But I could have swore it was the Tom Nodders for
You're right on the name. The name is right. But the other group is the group, the independents that had the airline.
With that guy that was, these are the facts.
Yeah,
facts, these are the facts.
Yeah.
If you don't believe the facts.
Yeah, the satellite image thing was something that came out after that, where it was an online thing, and they said, "Hey, do you want to help try to find the plane? Everybody can do it. Get on.
Well,
and, you can look at these images and see if you see anything."
It says that Tom Nod was a satellite imagery company, and let's see how they were funded. 1 second, trying to.
Because if they were somehow funded through the government, well, that may explain why she was. Everybody ignored it.
It just seemed like it was almost like a magic trick. Don't look at what's happening over here.
Right.
Pay attention to everything that's over here, and that's
why I'm not one of the smarter people, I guess. But that's why I think the third one actually makes the most sense.
I think it's closer to the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's missing some things, but I think it's closer to the truth of the whole narrative.
Can I tell you what I think about that?
About what?
The third one.
Is that going to be your theory?
No, I'll wait.
Okay, well let me finish then.
Okay, finish.
Okay,
Did we lose Gina?
No, I think we might have.
Yeah, she's
sitting really still. She's sitting really still.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was a lot of breadcrumbs leading you away from that right from the beginning. It was like after, like I said at the beginning, when it happened, the next day, 6 hours later, is when they reported it to the news outlets. So they were ready 6 hours, or probably more than that, into the plane's missing. And then it's like, well, this is where it went missing. Then all of a sudden they say, well, wait a minute. Now we think it's over here. Right away, it started steering you as far away from that area. And they kept throwing enough information at you to keep, 10 years later, we're still talking about it. They keep throwing you just enough to keep you going down the other path. And then when you had the stuff that makes sense, Rob, nobody listened. Everybody's like, no.
Yep.
They even found an oil slick, remember? Oh, we found an oil slick. Wait, we tested it. It was a ship.
Yeah.
Who tested it? Tell us who tested it.
Yep.
I mean, come on. Until I watched this documentary, my thoughts wouldn't have been that is what happened, that somehow it got shot down, somehow it crashed. I go with the shot down theory. Do I think the U.S. is involved? The Russians, the Vietnamese, the Korea? I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know. But I think that just go right to like Jeff said, only two things could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Catastrophic failure, or somebody manipulated it. Well, when all of a sudden it's, well, what if you're trying to cover it up? Let's go with the other theory, because we can make that last a lot longer and keep people guessing. Especially if you keep throwing them enough breadcrumbs, they're going to just eat it up. Even if it doesn't make sense, which a lot of these don't make sense. I don't know. I think the plane went down there. Are we ever going to find it? Obviously, maybe it's someplace because they have enough parts that they were able to scatter them in the Southern Indian Ocean, but that doesn't even mean it's from that plane. That could be just airplane parts that, they're scattered around, and just because of what everybody thinks, heck, the government, Malaysian government, those things are for sure from that plane. I haven't seen red or blue on any of those pieces of fucking plane. So how do you know it's Malaysian? All I saw was white.
They don't even have part numbers.
Most planes are white. So they go, oh yeah, it's the same white paint. Are you kidding me right now? Who's running this? Carrot Top?
You love Carrot Top.
I know, but come on. It's white paint. It's got to be that plane. Come on, people. We got to do better than that. At least say there's a possibility it could be, but don't tell people it for sure is. I don't know.
Where was it that they had that?
It's in the Southern Indian Ocean. That's my theory.
No,
you
mean
China Sea.
I was going to say,
I know. I'm like, wait a minute.
You're flip-flopping.
Yeah, that's me. I'm all wishy-washy. No, it's in the China Sea. That's where I think it is.
Where was the extensive search that they did? Was that in the China
Indian
Sea?
Ocean.
They did it in the China Sea over where they felt the plane went down.
Yep.
According to, remember, advanced mathematics.
Yeah.
And they searched an area, they said, about the size of the United States that had several mountain ranges and valleys equivalent to the Grand Canyon. But they searched for over 2 years and
Yep.
found nothing. So who funded that guy's
Australia was
excavation?
leading that
I was
group.
one, yeah.
Mhm.
Who was
Australia
doing
leading
that?
group. Australia was leading that main search that was done in the southern Indian Ocean. So
Yeah, so after I don't remember how many months, over 2 years, nothing. Not a
but I don't know how much
single
they
thing.
searched. I don't know how much they searched in the China Sea, because they started searching, but then when they heard that it flew back
They
over,
moved.
they went, "Oh shit, let's
Yep,
go
they
over
moved.
here."
Yes.
So I mean, how
Yep.
much did they really look? I mean, I'm sure they looked a little bit, because they said they tested that oil slick or whatever, but nobody followed up on Betty's pictures that she found on
Nope.
the satellite. Nobody
They couldn't.
followed
They
up
couldn't let them.
on Joel that's on the oil rig that says he saw a plane on fire. Okay. I mean, do you think these people were just making it up? I mean, what do they got to gain by making that shit up? I don't know. Sorry if I'm getting a little worked up. It just,
Oh, no.
just drives me nuts, because it's going to be 10 years and you watch in the next couple weeks, something new is going to come out. Oh, case is broken wide open. It's going to be another theory of some sort. And,
No, there's something that just came out. I was just looking at it a couple weeks ago, but it's just saying that the plane was closer to Australia.
yeah. And then when they don't find it, they're just going to come up with another excuse.
Oh, they're not finding anything. So
Yeah, I don't think so either.
What's your theory, Rob?
Okay, Rob, what's your theory?
okay, I don't believe that it did the U-turn. I just don't believe it did it because there's just the whole ping thing. I just whatever. I don't know. That really doesn't relate. I feel it went over 3 different airspaces. It flew over a military base. We got nothing. On the other side, we got a fishing boat and an oil rig that's seen a plane or something in flames going down. We have that woman in Florida who had the satellite images that she was assigned to go through, where she found pictures that actually to me didn't look like anything until she
You can find them if you Google them. If you Google those pictures, they're out there to look at.
But when she took the actual diagrams of the plane and overlaid them, was like, holy crap, right?
Yeah.
And everybody ignored that. So they mentioned a cargo that was escorted, that didn't go through X-ray, and it's in the manifest, so we know it's there. Now, today, when I was looking through the Wikipedia, they said it was for Motorola, that was a standard procedure, but they didn't mention that. I don't believe they mentioned that being a standard procedure.
That was going to be my question: is how often does that situation happen? And it's more normal than what we think it is.
Right.
But
But see, lithium batteries it's a big deal. When you go on a plane, if you're going to have a lithium, that's why they check your computers and all that nonsense, right? It's dangerous. So we don't know what was in there. They could have been, people trafficking. There could have been military stuff in there, right? We're not talking about big advanced countries that need to get stuff into China are going to have like some really good ways to do it. Like if they put on a boat and whatever it was, say I'm saying that it was some kind of tech that we don't want China to have. Okay. So if they put it on a boat and the US or somebody found out, easy to take that boat out. If they put it on their own plane, easy to take that plane out. Now, if we put it on a passenger, you have to make that decision about collateral damage. Okay, so they fly that plane, say the AWACS intercept, they tell them to turn it around, okay? That maybe the pilot says, screw you guys, I'm going to keep going like they said, and the military planes have to turn around because they're going into airspace they are not welcomed in. If there were military planes Maybe they took them out. Okay, they didn't want it to make it to China. They took them out. Maybe a trigger happy pilot took them out. Either way, they got to cover that up. They can't not have that known to the world like in the news. So we got the guys over that. What do you call that?
Inmarsat.
Inmarsat, right? They're British. They're part of NATO. They can pull that ping thing out of their ass.
The U.S. government's one of their contracts.
That's right. They can pull that ping thing out of their ass. So maybe also, and the other part of that is that if you got some cargo that you need to get into your country, military, top secret, whatever, and you don't want it to fall in the hands of the U.S. or anybody, maybe you have a fail-safe in there. And if they realized or thought that that was going to be compromised, they detonated it. So we know that I believe that she found the debris. They could have used the whole ping thing, send them on the other side of the world to go over there so they could clean up the debris. And then as far as the hostages go, and brought that over into Russia, I don't really know if they wanted to cause a distraction, they could have just blew it up. They wouldn't need to put hostages in there. But that kind of, not really sure what the cargo was. We'll never know now. I mean, as far as we know, it's Motorola phones. And I don't know. That's my theory.
If they had to get shot down, if the AWACS are there, who would be doing the shooting? I don't know if those planes generally have weaponry on them.
They probably don't, but I'm sure they could have been flying with fighter jets.
Like that's the part of this one that I always go, we're just throwing things in to,
sure.
You know what I mean? They could
have done it they could have shot a missile from a ship.
Yeah.
Now that's getting better.
Yeah, that's what I think happened. It was probably.
If you got an aircraft carrier, you can have an airplane over there. A jet fighter, you can shoot it from.
Yeah, but who do we
see? You can shoot it from land.
Well, like I said, we don't know. I mean,
we don't know. I just my theory. I personally do not believe it's over in the Indian Ocean. I don't believe it went in that direction. I don't believe any of that debris that suspect, very suspect character is finding has anything to do with the plane we're missing.
Before I watched this documentary, I was on board that it might have turned. I had no reason not to think that because I didn't
know nothing really about it. I knew it disappeared.
That you were fed, I didn't know about, I mean, I knew where it went missing. But I didn't until you sit and listen to all the details and all the research they did about the things, and you find out the little bit of a backstory as to what was going on in that area. Then you start going, well, maybe it's not as difficult to figure this out as everybody's making it. Maybe it's pretty simple.
Well, also with if those were, I mean, how many hundreds of pounds of lithium batteries was that supposed to be?
I know it said 2.5 tons.
Okay, what if one ignited them all? That plane's going down right there.
Right, and there could be nothing malicious about this whole thing. It could have just been something like that.
It ignited.
Cargo ignited, boom. But why all the distraction? Then the plane should be laying there and they'd be, oh shit, something happened.
That's right.
Why is nobody coming to that, and saying, nobody's saying they did it, but there's no plane. That's the biggest.
I mean, I think it was they were just casualties of war.
Someone's going to be going to an estate sale and they're going to find a 777. That goes back to an earlier story I had about a missile. So
it just
you just never know what you're going to find. Sometimes, I mean, but I think we've heard. Like I said, there's a million theories out there.
I didn't know a lot about it. I knew the plane had disappeared, and I just heard whatever I heard from other people and BS
Nothing
on
changes
Facebook
too much.
and aliens and
Yep.
I even had it confused with the plane that was actually shot down.
I think they did too at one
over
point.
Russia. So I didn't really know anything. And then last night I thought I'll watch that show, grab my popcorn, buckled up for an hour and a half long documentary. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no, it's 3 hours.
3 hours straight.
3 hours.
I watched it twice.
Did you?
That's 6.
That's a
Pretty
lot.
good. Gina, what do you
It was
think
worth it.
happened
I
with
was
this plane?
absorbed. I was absorbed into it. Like the second episode finished, and I was like, "Holy crap, it's done already!" Yeah, it was interesting. It was very.
Yeah, I watched it a couple times, and I actually started taking notes. I was like typing notes into my computer as it was going on, so I can like keep track of everything that I wanted to remember of all the things that had happened.
People's names. So.
And you know what? I think I'm going to go along with you guys with. I do not think the plane turned back. I do not think the plane went south. I do not think it went in the Indian Ocean. I mean, first of all, as somebody had mentioned already, there were 14 countries, I believe, that were working together to try to find this plane. And if it was, my thing is if it was a conspiracy, would 14 countries, they mentioned this in the documentary, would 14 countries who normally don't work together or get along going to really join forces to create a cover up? Like that doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Unless there was something in somebody's, best interest. When they talked about those AWAC planes that are there, I mean, they said that they were already up in the air. And what these AWAC planes do is they have these giant satellite type things on the top, and they can kind of read everything that's going on below.
For quite a distance.
Right. And at some point, they kind of sandwiched this airplane and ordered it to the ground. And they believe that potentially that the pilot said, no way, I'm not going to do that. You're not my boss. You're not the boss of me. So I'm not going to do it. And that it somehow was taken down. What I believe happened. Well, first of all, let me say, I'm really disappointed that there was only a blip of a mention where somebody thought that it could have been aliens. Let's be real. I really wanted
there was more than a blip.
There was static and disruption.
I really just wanted there to be a little bit more of the alien angle. I mean, they did mention that that I don't know if it was in this documentary or another thing that I had read about it, that they thought potentially there could have been that some of the conspiracy theories was that there were aliens on board. I mean, if the aliens are that sophisticated, they don't need to get on board to take it over, right? I mean, let's face it.
I think I heard DB Cooper was involved at one of them.
Yeah. So I was really,
I mean, if you name it, there's a theory out there.
So I'm just saying, just personally, I was really disappointed they didn't go further with that. Okay. Just go put that out there. But having said that, really, truly, what I think happened is that it did like blow up or something. It was instantaneous, probably nobody felt or knew a thing. And why they didn't find debris is because I think they don't know exactly what area that they kind of dropped off. Weren't they in some kind of gray zone anyway, where nobody really had contact with them?
But it's not that big of a gray area where you would still have a large area too.
Right. And I guess I feel like they would have found wreckage. And do I think so? The lady that's in Florida, apparently was into photography. She has a real good eye for photography. So that's why she decided to volunteer for this project and accept to take some of these photos and just kind of look. And she said, it's frustrating because you're just looking little sections at a time of water. And then she finds these images, and they overlay portions of the plane on top of these images that are in the water. Mm-hmm. So I was a little disappointed that they didn't do more with that. Like, why didn't they go to these? Like, why didn't we have more about them going to those areas and investigating what was that? Were they picking up on the satellite? What was being picked up? And also, if we took a satellite picture of that same area now, do we still see the same thing? So if so, then maybe it's underwater, like mountains or, crevices, whatever, because they were talking how the water down in the southern Indian Ocean, weren't they talking about how there were like underground volcanoes and mountains
Yes,
and
and
valleys?
canyons that were equivalent to the Grand
So,
Canyon.
so yeah, I mean, like some as large as this, the Grand Canyon, and
Well,
it's so.
here's my other question about debris, though. How heavy are the parts of the plane? I mean,
I
are they
mean,
sinking or are they floating?
I
Well,
think when they break apart, maybe they can float. I don't know.
well,
I
pieces
mean,
Because they
would.
talked about debris field, and I'm not so sure how far those satellites are penetrating the
yeah,
water.
I don't know. I just
Let's not forget, all the seat cushions are designed to float.
right.
Sea
So, I mean, they haven't even found a seat cushion. They
and
haven't found
luggage.
anything. Luggage.
Luggage
Yeah, but
float.
don't the
mean-
seat cushions have to be released? Like if there was an explosion and that thing burnt up as it was falling to the ground,
It's all
maybe-
possible. Yep.
maybe none of those released. Maybe this was just such a massive explosion for whatever reason.
But then there shouldn't have been a flapper arm.
But we don't know if that was actually belonged to MH370.
Oh, I know. I'm here to tell you, I probably didn't, but that's my point. If it did
Right.
that, you're
That's
not going
what
to have
I'm
these
s-
big pieces anywhere. So
Exactly.
You
And
know?
why over where they said it was. And that was the
Yeah.
other thing that I just
Weird.
wanted to bring up to those of you that have not watched the documentary. I mean, obviously we have a lot of spoiler alerts because that's what we're basing this off of. But, even some of the family members felt that this debris was planted, that somebody planted that debris in those locations, and it was a very convenient thing to have
Mhm.
happen when it happened. So
Yep.
that's my theory and that's my thoughts on it. And if you haven't watched the documentary, I strongly suggest you do. And then you're going to find yourself down a really big rabbit hole when you're looking
Oh
it up.
yeah, right.
Okay, Jenny, what's your thought? What do you think?
I was going to actually say something similar to what Gina said, but I think that plane exploded in the South China Sea.
Mhm.
And I think that the turmoil, the social media frenzy, the panic, the pointing fingers at different countries, the lack of having any information to share, find anything, it created an environment where things were planted and things were covered up. And it was almost like an after effect of trying to prove your own innocence instead of really like trying to find the facts. I think they were trying to close it. And I did want to bring up, I did see a CNN article from November 28th in 2023. There were settlements that went out to these families, and there were all but 40 families that wound up taking settlements, and the people that were from China, they took like $350,000. It was like yen, so the number was big, but it was like only $350,000, and part of that settlement was to release the responsibility of Malaysia Airlines and Boeing. And there were about 90 families that had not actually taken the settlement before COVID. And then once COVID hit, after COVID, there were only 40 families because some of these people needed that money to survive during COVID. They had no other option. So you have 40 families now, and these families are still steadfast of, no, we don't know what happened. We're not taking the settlement. I really do think that it crashed, or it blew up. I don't think it even crashed. I think it blew up. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the electronics, but I think it happened right after they lost communication. And then it just turned into a media frenzy and finger pointing and people trying to prove themselves innocent so that they didn't have to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, I really like your theory that evidence, or that these pieces were planted after the fact to try to absolve responsibility for any other. I hadn't even thought about it like that, so that gives new meaning to the why behind something would be planted. So that's a good
It
call.
sure seems like the way the evidence trail went, it was happening very fluidly. Like you said, all of a sudden something's planted, or all of a sudden there's another story that's put in. It seemed like it was an ongoing thing, and maybe it just steamrolled out of control, and it's to the point where it's a mess now. Maybe it was a simple explanation, but the way they handled it certainly didn't sit well with the families, or anybody, a lot of people. with what they said and what they did, how they approached it. I think from the very beginning just turned people off right away because they weren't getting any information. There was like no cooperation. There was no answers. You know, I think that just made the whole anything later on down the road, whether it's a settlement or not, whatever the case is, made that just sour because of how it was all handled at the very beginning. So, okay, Brian, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, I'll give a bunch of cliches, but the first one is it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. It's a duck. When you see the story unfold, even when you're just looking at the footage from the press conferences that the Malaysian government is doing, the whole time you just start going something is wrong with it. It doesn't mean it has to be nefarious or anything, but something about this is off. This is not going the way that you would expect it to. So then I look at all those different theories that everybody has, and I go, everybody here has seen Stranger Things. If you haven't seen Stranger Things, pause this for about 30 seconds. So in Stranger Things, when we get Murray with Jonathan and Nancy, and they see his yarn board of all the events of Hawkins, and Nancy walks in and says, "No, that's wrong. The girl's not Russian," and she starts it like he's so close. Murray is so close to what's actually going on, but he's just off by a little bit. And I think that's where those theories that the two journalists had, it's like, oh, I feel like you guys are so close, but they're just not hitting it. So you have one option is that it's the pilot, and that for whatever reason, this guy decided he was going to kill everybody on the plane and himself and do it that way. Problems with that are, one, everybody seemed to be vouching for this guy, even people who lost people on the plane but worked with him and were still saying, that's ridiculous to think that. And you go, usually when people do those things, they do it pretty quickly and they want people to know. It doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody, if that was their motive, is that I wanted to kill myself and all these people on the plane, so I'm going to do it where it's a mystery and nobody will ever find out. Like, that seems like an odd way to do that. So that already seems far-fetched. And then you add in the pings that they're getting and all of the confusion with that just seems very rudimentary, that they try to pass off as a very technological thing that they're doing. So it must be this. But all of that is still just kind of circumstantial. The fact that we do know is, like everybody has said, we know for sure where it dropped off the radar and where it disappeared. We know that for a fact. So then you have two choices. There was a catastrophic failure. Maybe it was whatever the batteries were, because you go, maybe it goes into further incompetence. I always err on the side of incompetence instead of people being nefarious. That they do have this thing, they didn't x-ray it, so they didn't know exactly what pieces were on there, but this is a shipment that happens, but something was just a little off on this one, and somebody goofed up, and there was a problem, and there was a fire that started, and it went down. That seems super logical until you get to the part where how come you don't find anything? How come you have people who are getting satellite images that looks like it's debris that we never know if that's followed up on? So with that particular theory, you start to break that down and you go, if the logical thing happened, you'd be able to find the debris, and this thing would be probably going about as normally as these things, unfortunately, when they do happen, they pan out and they kind of go according to how you think they're going to. That's how this one should have went. If something exploded and it went down in the South China Sea, it was just an accident. They should have been able to find stuff. So the part where you go, that didn't happen until we start finding shit on the probable, maybe kind of side of things with it going to the Indian Ocean. Now you start to go, it was probably shot down. We know that happens. That happened to at least one airliner in the 80s. A passenger jetliner gets shot down. We know that it happens 4 months after this one is missing. One gets shot down. Now, what we did find out on that docuseries is, didn't they say that there was a multinational, not war games, but war exercises that were going on at the same time in the same area?
Yeah.
So maybe something went awry with that, and it's an oopsie. And now we have to try to, and then that's where you start getting into your cover up. If you want to go big scheme, that it was something that happened with that exercise, accidentally took that plane out, and now everybody kind of does an oh shit. And then that's how you get all of these gears turning that everybody says stinks because something doesn't seem right. Maybe it's that. Or maybe it was Russia or China or somebody shot it down. And it's the same thing. Everybody has to jump in because we don't need an international incident to happen with countries now taking blame. So everybody has to go calm the fuck down and let's figure this out. That seems way more logical than any other. Like it, I don't think at any point it goes as far as, you know, we have to make the decision. Do we shoot down the jetliner for our own interests? I think that goes too far. But again, incompetence or a mistake always seems to rule the day. And that's what I can definitely see this being. And then everybody has to jump into action to get that shit figured out. That's
right.
the most logical.
And that's why I feel we or somebody else cleaned up that debris field.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Before anybody else got there, that was already done, and that's why we got people out of there. That was cleaned up. Because, like I said, even if it was shot down or a trigger happy pilot, or he accidentally sneezed and hit the button, or even the war games, something like that. But definitely, that's my theory. I agree with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is something to be said. I'm glad you brought that up, that what if, as a whole other theory, there was this catastrophic fuck up with one of these military exercises going on, and these and this innocent flight was part of it. Then yes,
our military would never fuck up. We love the FBI.
But what
I do at least.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, maybe that would be the only time that multiple governments who wouldn't normally work together would work together. But you would think that another one would want to tattle on the other if that were the case. I don't know. There's just
and also just say, because the only on Wikipedia did I see that manifest actually said Motorola. Those guys got a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they had something that with a cover up, get that shit cleaned up. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know.
No.
However, it was a great documentary, so I would recommend that to have people watch it. It's got so much built into there, and you shift one direction, and you're like, well, maybe. Well, maybe.
I mean, it's kind of like when you watch the flat Earth stuff. If you really watch some of that stuff, and I think we should talk about that on another episode, there are some conspiracies, some thoughts that people can really sound so convincing that they can take something that's possible and make it plausible. And, you know, I don't know, or vice versa. So it's just, I find it interesting because they can hook you because you get a few little facts and it's like, okay, wait, now my rational brain has to take over and think, really, what's the most likely scenario? Which the Earth is round. Spoiler alert. But
are you sure?
In general, yeah, I'm sure. Yes.
How do you know?
I am. It's just an empirical knowing.
Okay.
I know because #science.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, great episode, Rich.
We just lost all our flat Earth audience. There you go.
Well,
I mean, we can talk about it, but I just believe that the Earth is round.
Yeah, we're taking care of people one at a time.
We're just alienating.
Yeah, we're just alienating different groups one at a time,
one after the other.
But you know what? They can't say that we lie, and they can't say that we're not real, because I think we're as real as we can be when we do this. So, but
well,
thank you everyone for
that motherfucker right there. He is not real. Oh, that was the plane lady.
Oh,
That was the,
Remember, I mean,
oh yeah, that's right. The lady on the plane that thought there
Oh,
was
yeah.
you know who was on that flight?
yeah, Carrot Top was on that flight. I do know
There
who
you
was
go.
on that flight. Yes, we do.
He's got 2 mentions today. He should be listening. Next time we go, we'll have to give him a business
We'll
card.
have more Carrot Top
I
than
like that.
Jason this season.
Well, well, thanks guys for watching the documentary. I hope it brought some interesting things to your noggin. It did mine after watching it because, like I said,
it was a lot of fun knowing we were all watching the same thing and going to come to the table and talk.
It's
about
funny
it.
how you think one thing and then after
We
You
should have
watched
had a sleepover and watched it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we could have discussed it, and it would have
We
took
could
us
have just
8 hours
recorded
to
it right
get
then
through
and
it.
there.
Yeah.
8 hours to get through that freaking thing.
I was
could've-
going to say
we
we'd have
could've-
never gotten through it. We'd been pausing because we'd be all missing it because we'd be talking to each other.
We
I
could have
apparently already
literally
did
done a live event, sleepover with the realm, and we could have just went live and
Yeah.
watched it and like talked about it.
We should do a
Oh,
camp. We
missed
should do a camping
opportunity.
episode.
Huh?
We should do a camping episode where we go tent camping
We should.
In
You
some
know.
haunted campsite,
up by the
UFO
nunnery.
playground.
Preferably where there's no rattlesnakes. I don't do snakes.
I don't like spiders.
So
But-
that doesn't happen.
I like
Well,
cats.
Great episode. I like cats. Yeah. Great episode, everybody.
Yes.
I know we announced this on our Facebook, but I really want to take a second to announce this now
What's that?
because we are taking this international. You guys know we are going to Ireland in 11 months to stay at a haunted castle, and I cannot wait. The first payment for our trip has been made. Everything is booked. We are working on getting our asses over to across the pond, and we're gonna bring some cool stuff to you. So 2025.
And if you're not a flat Earth theorist and you want to sponsor us for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, we are paying for this all on our own.
We should
But,
watch all the Leprechaun movies right in a row right before we get there.
Oh, we should.
Why?
I mean-
Why
You know-
would we want to do that?
Right now we lost our Irish
Mexican is
following.
2024 is going to be
Don't
a
do
great
that.
year for the podcast, but 2025 is going to be epic.
I'll have
So
to watch the Boondock Saints.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can watch whatever we want.
Was that
We'll just-
Irish?
I don't know. We can download a bunch of stuff and just. We'll have to make sure that our seats are all right in a row on the plane so we can sit together. I don't know about you guys. I might go first class. I'm just kidding. Can't
I
afford
might
that.
too.
I can't afford
By
that.
then we're gonna be superstars. We won't
That's
have to pay.
true.
anything.
Yep. Mic drop.
Maybe we can do a live episode from the plane.
Oh, I wonder. Would we?
Maybe
have
we should do it the whole way just in case something happens. They'll know the truth.
Then they'll know the truth. Exactly.
Ireland flight, whatever.
We're not putting that out into the universe, okay?
And by
Oh.
that time, Stephen King might be walking by you guys in first class, go back to his coach seat.
Hey,
Just sit by
alone.
Carrot Top.
Yeah.
That's 3 times.
oh my God, leave
Oh
him
God, I
alone.
hope that'd be awesome.
We're gonna have a Carrot Top counter every time we say his name.
Maybe he'll be on here.
That's 4.
He's probably got nothing else to do.
We'll get Scott on here. He'll do it.
Oh, shit.
Well, it's great to be back, guys. It's going to be a really great season. We have a wonderful lineup. So, guys, stick with us.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time. So, stay weird. Ciao.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yep.